Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are here to do the NXT recap, which took place last night, June 10th, 2025. So, what actually ended up being advertised as an NXT with two title matches, which you feel like is probably enough. It actually ended up being a triple title match Tuesday, as dubbed by the commentators, if you can believe that. So, three matches. Tons of stuff to talk about. So without further ado, let's get right into it. We start the show off by getting a look at Obafemi, who's heading into the arena for his NXT title defense later on that evening, and pretty much, instantaneously, he's attacked by his opponent that night, Jasper Troy. He ends up slamming him down through up against a car windshield before the officials are forced to pull him off. So, wasting little time with the action on this episode of NXT, Jasper trying to get his make sure his chances stay as high as possible for later tonight. We then start off our first match of the night, which features the NXT North American title being defended as promised last week. Ethan Page defending against Sean Legacy. This is a pretty back and forth and even matchup. While Ethan Page did get the win to retain the title, this certainly wasn't an easy defense by any means. Legacy definitely held his own. And kind of mentioned it before when we saw these two guys in the ring. It just, something about these two guys just feels special. So I think this is probably far from the last time we'll see both of these guys in the ring. But on this particular night, Ethan Page did get the better of Legacy, but not without some struggles in between. So for that, right after the match ends, we then see Ricky Saints come back in and ambush Ethan Page. We later see a segment, I can't recall when exactly, but later in the night, Ava kind of getting onto Saints because he's not even medically cleared, and he tries to talk to Ava but can't, has a bandage on his throat, still feeling the effects of that chair shot from Ethan Page a while back. So we'll see where that one goes. Clearly, we'll see if Sean Legacy has any more to say, but I think Ethan Page and Ricky Saints, as most of us probably figured, are far from over. We then see a backstage segment with JC Jane and Fatal Influence, and they are in the ring talking to Ava. JC is consistent that because she is the NXT Women's Champion, that they need to build a rapport. We then see Lainey Reed, who we saw last week as well, come in, and she gets two slaps in on JC Jane, and then JC says, let's give her a title match. So wrestling logic, there you go. So we see that defense later on in the evening. We then see another backstage segment where Sean Spears is asking Izzy Dane of the Culling why she took that chair to Brooke Jensen. Izzy runs through a list of reasons, which include the fact that he wasn't dedicated to the Culling, as he went against everything this group stands for. We then see the Culling on their way to the ring for a tag match against Josh Briggs and Inamura. And the Culling takes out Briggs after a quick interference from Spears. But this match, the Culling with Izzy Dane at ringside, not quite having the chemistry to take down the Culling at this time. And the Culling appear to be back firing on all cylinders and clearly going to be a force going forward. So you got to think with Inamura and Briggs, did they lose some chemistry, or is this just kind of a one-off thing? We'll wait and see how that goes in weeks forward. We then see a video package of Mariah May kind of broadcasting her. It kind of reminds me of like a Tiffany Stratton kind of a vibe. Very much glamorous in her ways. And it states that she will now be known as Blake Monroe, which is nothing close to Mariah May, which is an interesting decision, but we'll see how that plays out. Typically, like with the Ricky Saints scenario, it's somewhat close to their name they came over with, but this one decides to take a completely different route. And it's also announced later in the evening that she will be officially signing her NXT contract next week. Getting back into the ring, we have a match which features Last Legend and Ren Sinclair. Rin showed some moments here of being able to compete, but for the most part, this kind of felt like a warning from Lash Legend to the rest of the locker room that she is a force to be reckoned with. It was noted too that Kalani at ringside here, as you can see, she's kind of, I think, both building a feud with Lash because she's trying to shed the little sister vibe that she's getting from her, and also we've kind of seen Kalani go on to the more heelish ways, continuing to try to do that here. I imagine we'll see a feud between those two coming up here relatively shortly. We see a promotional video later for Laney Reed, who earned her title shot earlier in the evening by slapping JC Jane a couple times. She basically states that you shouldn't confuse her Southern hospitality for weakness, and that her record-breaking track career in college will back that up. She's also says that she's not waiting for the right moment to make her appearance because JC is the most beatable champion in NXT history, and she's here to shock the world. So we then see her in-ring debut up against JC Jane for that women's NXT championship. And I think we can all say that would be quite the debut if she was able to shock the world and take that NXT title from JC Jane. So let's get into the actual match. JC took control of the match, I feel like, for at least the first half. But then all of a sudden, Laney gets really going and, actually makes it seem like maybe she does have a chance to shock us all. Fallon, of course, at ringside does end up causing a distraction, which allowed JC to hit the rolling encore and eventually get the win over Laney. So it does feel like, we kind of had this problem on main with the interferences. This episode kind of featured a little more than usual than we're used to seeing for NXT, for sure. But yeah, Laney had a good showing here. I feel like a pretty good debut. I thought she showed, a lot of promise. And of course, it doesn't hurt when you're in the ring with JC. It makes you look good as the women's veteran of the locker room, as she's dubbed by the commentary team. But yeah, pretty good match. I think had me going there for a few minutes, thinking that Laney might actually stand a chance. But what a way that would be to debut on NXT. After the match, Ava appears from the crow's nest, and she announced that next week there will be 4 singles matches. The winners of those 4 matches will then compete in a fatal 4-way, and then will be the winner of that fatal 4-way will be the new number 1 contender, and will face JC Jane for the NXT Women's Championship at Evolution. So lots to look forward there. A lot to look forward to there, and clearly, I think next week they were announced. So 4 singles matches there, all of which look pretty good to me on paper. So something to look forward to next week. For those watching on YouTube, this is the end of the pictures. For some reason, WWE didn't upload anything else after this match, so we will just continue on with the review, but nothing to look at very closely. The next match, we see High Rise's Tyson and Tyreek go up against the families Don and Luca Crucifino. And the story around this match, I think, was probably clear before we even saw anyone in the ring. That is the family continuing to struggle internally. Luca intentions, we don't really quite know yet. The Don obviously very hesitant to buy into, to accept that he is a trusting person still. And then you couple that with Wesley being at ringside for High Rise. The family never stood a chance here. And then you add Channing Stacks to that mix as well, who ends up being at ringside here. And more of the same from the family. Either the Don needs to move on here or, figure something else out quickly, because it feels like we're kind of at a standstill with them. I'm sure we'll draw that out for a few more weeks at least, though. Then we get into the main event, which is Jasper Choi and Oba Femi for that men's NXT championship. And this was the main event, and rightfully so, because this match had it all. We had the middle rope falling apart. We had Jasper Choi hammering Oba's midsection after being slammed through a windshield earlier in the night. And then we have a 3 count being interrupted because Jasper's shoulder was ever so slightly off the ring, or off the mat, announced by the referee. So yeah, this one really got my heart racing, and yeah, anything but an easy defense for Oba. Granted, clearly not 100%, but yeah, this was quite the debut for Jasper Troy. Clearly a force to be reckoned with, and it probably coming off like a broken record. But from all three debuts we saw tonight, or not debuts, Sean Legacy is still pretty new though, and then with Laney and Jasper as well, clearly showing that they do belong here. So yeah, a good night for the newer talents for sure. But yeah, overall, that was NXT. Anytime you have three title matches on the same show, I think you'd be hard pressed to ruin that. And I feel like we did pretty good here. No title defenses, which was a bit shocking. I think considering there were three, I kind of thought at least one of them might change hands. Especially when we get to the end there, Oba was felt like he was on the defense for a good portion of that match. So yeah, lots of good matches here tonight, and some continued stories as well. So another great episode of NXT. I give this one a 9 out of 10, and yeah, with Raw getting a perfect 10 for me just the other day, SmackDown has an opportunity to do something really interesting and make this a very good week in wrestling, which but historically, as doing these podcasts, rarely do we get a a 9, at currently a 9.5 average. So if SmackDown can at least come in as a 9 as well, that has to be one of the best weeks of wrestling since we've started this podcast. So with that, this has been another episode of The Push, and just like mentioned, SmackDown recap coming up in just a few days. But until next time, we'll see you then. Take care.